Hello and welcome to this lecture. So far in this section, you have learned how looping works. In this lecture, you will be learning how break, continue, and else statements can be used to manipulate your looping statements. Let's start by looking at what a break statement is. So what a break statement does is based on a certain condition, it stops your loop from further execution. To understand how that works, let's take an example. Say I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. So for number in range 1, 11, I give an indentation and then I would print it. Now what I want to do is to stop this loop from executing on reaching the number 5. So I have a condition which checks if my number is equal to 5, then you break the loop, else print the number. Let's see how this works. So as you can see, the output is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what happened there is on reaching the number 5, this if condition evaluated to true and the break statement was executed, which caused this loop from executing any further. Let's see what a continue statement does. A continue statement is used to skip a particular iteration. Let's see what that is. Let's take the same example of printing numbers from 1 to 10. So for number in range 1 to 11. Now in this case, what I would want my loop to do is to print all the numbers from 1 to 10 except the number 5. So on encountering number 5, I need my iteration to be skipped. Let's see if that works by using continue. So if my number equal to 5, then continue, else print the number. So as you can see, the output is 1, 2, 3, 4. On reaching the number 5, the if was evaluated to true and the continue was executed, which caused that particular iteration to stop and continued with the next iteration, which is 6 and 7, 8, 9 and 10 were printed going forward. Next, what we will be looking at is the else condition. Now we have seen how else works along with an if condition. Now let's see how else works along with the loop. So how else works is it checks for the break statement in your loop. Now if the break statement was not executed, then the else block gets executed. Let's see what that is. So for number in range 1 to 11, this time let me check if number is equal to 15, which will never happen since I'm only printing numbers from the range 1 to 10. In this case, if the number is 15, you break the loop. And then in the else section, I enter print number. So do not get confused. This is the else corresponding to the if statement. Now we will be writing the else corresponding to the for loop statement. And to do that, I go back to the beginning of my line and in the else section, I print a statement that says all the numbers were printed without breaking the loop. Now let's see what happens. There, as you can see, all the numbers from 1 to 10 were printed, and since the break statement was not executed, the else block was triggered and it printed the print statement in the else block. Now what if my break statement was executed? Let's see what would happen then. For number in range 1, 11, this time I will be checking for a valid case, and I'm checking once again with the number 5 if it's the number 5 break, else I go ahead and print the number. Now in the else block, I give the same print statement. All the numbers were printed without breaking the loop. Now let's see what happens on execution of this loop. So what happened is it started execution with 1, 2, 3 and 4, and since the break statement was triggered when the number 5 was encountered, it broke the loop, and since the loop was broken, the else part of the loop was not triggered. That's the end of this lecture and this section on loops. Let's take a quick review of what you have learned in this section. We started this section by looking at why is looping used, which is to repeatedly run a block of statements over and over again. And then we saw the different types of looping statements. The first we saw is the for loop, which is used to iterate over a sequence starting from the first element to the last element. Now in this example, we have a list called numbers, which has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can use a for loop to run across this list starting from the number 1 till the number 5, printing all the numbers in the list. Next, what we saw is the while loop. Now a while loop is used to repeatedly execute the block of statement as long as the condition in the while loop holds true. In this example, in our while loop, we have a variable called length which is being checked. So what is happening is it checks if the length is less than or equal to 3. Initially, the value of the variable length is 1, and within our for loop, we increment it and print it. So once the value of length turns 4, it breaks the loop. The next kind of loop what we saw is the nested loop, which is a loop within another loop. So in this example, we have used two for loops in one for loop within another for loop. The number of times this loop will execute is m cross n, where m is the number of iterations of your outer for loop and n is the number of iterations of your inner for loop. So for every iteration of your outer for loop, your inner loop would execute 3 times. So it is a total of 3 into 3 number of times. So in this case, it will print a total of 9 times the statement hello world. Next, what we saw was the break statement. So what is a break statement? A break statement is used to break a loop from further execution when a condition is met. So in this example, we check if the length is equal to 3, and if the length is equal to 3, we break the while loop. Next, what we saw is the continue statement, which will skip a particular iteration of the loop. So now a break statement completes the loop from further execution when a condition is met, but a continue statement skips just one particular iteration of the loop. Now in this example, what happens is initially the value of the variable length is 1, and in our while loop, we run this loop as long as the value of length is less than or equal to 4. Now what condition we are checking within the while loop is if my length is equal to 2, then increase the length and then continue. So what happens is when your length is equal to 2, without printing the length, you increment it to the next number. So our output for this would be 1, 3 and 4. When you encounter the length with the value 2, that particular iteration gets skipped. Next, what we saw was the else statement. So how does an else statement work along with the loop? So an else statement gets executed when the break statement of the loop does not get executed. So what does that mean? Now in this example, we have length equal to 4, and within our loop, within our while loop, we are checking if length equal to 3, then break this while loop, which is never going to happen. Now since the break statement is not being executed, at the end of this while loop, the else statement will be executed and it will print the output break was not encountered. So that's the end of this review on looping statements. In the next lecture, we will be writing a program in Python that implements looping. Now, in case you have any doubts on the concept of looping so far, use the discussion board and I'll help you from there. I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.